Welcome back to the deep dive. We look at a lot of source material here, try to figure things out, give you that shortcut. Today, we're tackling someone whose career path is, well, honestly kind of baffling. Robert Allen Riggle, Jr. We're talking about a guy who spent 23 years in the United States Marine Corps, rose all the way up to lieutenant colonel, and at the same time, somehow, became this huge face in comedy. Sketch comedy, movies, TV, you name it.
It really is like two different lives, isn't it? And that's our mission today, really, to look at these sources and figure out not just that he did both, but how. How did these things, coexist? Military service, combat experience, and then boom, Saturday Night Live, The Daily Show. It seems impossible.
Right. The basic facts alone just clash.
Yeah.
Born April 21st, 1970, Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. But look at the education. University of Kansas, he gets a BA in theater and film in 92. Makes sense for an actor. But then just 5 years later, 1997, he gets a Master of Public Administration, an MPA, from Webster University. It's different.
Well, that MPA is kind of the secret key, isn't it? That 5-year gap where he gets both degrees. It's basically the blueprint for his whole career. The theater and film BA, that's the creative path. Performance, improv, storytelling, obvious. But the Master of Public Administration, that's about leadership, management, policy, logistics, running things, like government stuff or high-level military. He was literally training for two completely different, very demanding professions at the same time.
Exactly. And the career snapshot reflects that perfectly. Military service.
Yeah.
1990 right through to January 1st, 2013. Lieutenant Colonel. That's serious. But smack dab in the middle of that, he's blowing up in comedy.
Yeah.
Randy in Step Brothers in 2008. Officer Franklin in The Hangover in 2009. Iconic roles. How do you even schedule that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The logistics are mind-boggling. The Marine Corps Reserve demands serious commitment, readiness for deployment, and then you've got auditions, shooting schedules, live shows, and comedy. The dedication required for either one is huge. For both. It's almost unbelievable.
Let's rewind a bit, though, to his early life. Because this split seems to start way back. Moved from Kentucky to Overland Park, Kansas, when he was just 2.
Yeah.
Shawnee Mission South High School. And even back then, he was into performance school, radio, TV stations. And here's a little tidbit. Voted most humorous in his class. Graduated at 88. So the comedy bug was there early.
Yeah, the talent was obvious. But the path he took right after high school, that's what's really interesting. He joins the Marines in 1990. This is while he's at KU, mind you. And he'd already gotten his pilot's license. So the initial plan, according to what we've read, was pretty straightforward. Become a naval aviator, full-time pilot, active duty.
But then comes the pivot, and this is crucial, right? This decision point is what makes the whole dual career thing possible. He decides not to go through with flight school. He realizes that active duty flying would completely block any chance of a comedy career. So he trades the cockpit for the stage, essentially, and shifts over to the Marine Corps Reserve.
And that decision changes the entire game. The reserves, well, it's still a massive commitment. Don't get me wrong, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year typically, but it's not the constant full-time demand of active duty. It allowed him the time to pursue comedy. He could keep his military commitment, rise through the ranks, deploy when called up, which he did multiple times, and still be available for auditions and gigs in New York and LA. He basically walked this logistical tightrope for more than 20 years. It's kind of incredible.
23 years.
Yeah.
And reaching lieutenant colonel, that's not just showing up. That's a serious, successful military career in its own right.
Absolutely. We need to be clear about that. This wasn't some, honorary role. This was real service. He was a public affairs officer based out of New York City for a lot of it with a reserve unit there. And that job involves, being the military's voice to the public, to the press. It's a leadership role, high pressure, high visibility.
And think about the timing. Early 2000s, New York City, then 9/11 happens. And the sources say he was right there, involved immediately in the recovery efforts at Ground Zero.
Yeah, that's really grounding detail, isn't it? While maybe other comedians are worrying about their next open mic spot, Riggle is boots on the ground in Lower Manhattan after a national disaster, in uniform, leading Marines. And his service wasn't just stateside either. He deployed twice to Afghanistan, 2001, 2002, right at the beginning of the conflict, plus assignments in Liberia, Albania, and Kosovo.
Okay, wait, let's pause on Kosovo, because that's not just an assignment. That's where things get really serious, militarily speaking. The sources are clear. His time in Kosovo earned him the Combat Action Ribbon, the CIR.
Right, and for anyone listening who doesn't know, the CIR isn't handed out like candy. You don't get it for showing up. It means you were there. In-ground combat, under enemy fire.
Yeah.
actively participating. So this completely shatters any image of him being just a weekend warrior or, a PR guy behind a desk. He's a combat veteran. While his comedy partner, Rob Riggle, might have been doing improv back in New York, Riggle was in an active conflict zone, possibly engaging the enemy. The contrast is just stark.
How do you even process that?
Yeah.
Going from that kind of life and death situation one week to worrying about landing a punchline the next.
It suggests incredible compartmentalization, mental discipline, maybe something the Marines instill. And look at his awards list. It really backs up the depth of his service. It's not just campaign medals for being in a place. It's recognition for sustained high-level performance, both in and out of combat.
Let's break down a couple of those awards just to give a sense of what they mean.
Okay, yeah. The Meritorious Service Medal, he got 2 of those. That's for outstanding non-combat service or achievement. Getting it twice suggests long periods where he was really excelling in leadership, management, taking on more responsibility, not just serving, but serving well.
And then there's the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, the Joint Service Achievement Medal. More recognition for specific acts or periods of excellent service. Plus, you see his deployment history right there in the medals. Kosovo Campaign, Afghanistan Campaign, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal.
Right. And don't forget, the Humanitarian Service Medal, likely tied to things like the 9/11 recovery efforts and the Armed Forces Reserve Medal, showing his long tenure in the reserves. Put it all together and you see a picture of a really dedicated officer, someone who stepped up for major conflicts, major domestic crises for over 2 decades, all while somehow building this completely separate career in the madness of show business.
Yeah, understanding that military foundation is so important because you can really see how it informs his comedy persona later on, especially when he hits the big time.
Exactly. Okay, so let's pivot. Let's talk comedy. Because this whole time alongside the Marines, the comedy career is bubbling up. And it really starts, like for so many others of his generation, with improv, specifically at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, UCBT in New York.
And the key relationship there is with Rob Riggle. They became this powerhouse duo at UCB. They were part of that legendary improv troupe, Respecto Montalban. That was really his training ground, honing that comedic voice.
Yeah, and their main thing was a 2-man show called Kung Fu Grip. It was a big hit at UCB, ran for a long time, got so much buzz, actually, that they got invited to perform it at the HBO Comedy Arts Festival in Aspen back in 2004. That's a major stepping stone, getting noticed on a national level.
And that notice led to those early TV spots, right? The talking head shows that were everywhere then. Comedy Central's Best Week Ever, VH1's A to Z. He was also on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments in 2004. It was a smart way to get screen time. He had this sort of authoritative look, but he's using it for quick, funny commentary.
And all that momentum leads directly to the big audition, summer 2004, Saturday Night Live.
And it's kind of poignant, isn't it? He auditions with Rob Riggle, his longtime partner. But only Riggle gets the call. He joins as a featured player for season 30. That's the 2004-2005 season. Only one season, but he definitely made his mark, mostly with impressions.
Yeah, he had a pretty good stable. Larry the Cable Guy, Howard Dean, Rick Sanchez, Mark McGuire, Toby Keith, he could transform. But the thing people often remember from that season, the really standout original bit, was that one-off character.
Leviticus.
Yeah. The super loud, really aggressive, almost violent street preacher. He just appeared once on Weekend Update during the Christmas show Robert De Niro hosted. It was pure chaotic energy. You could almost see, I don't know, maybe a hint of that military intensity channeled into comedy. It was jarring, but funny.
And here's a bit of trivia for the deep dive. He was actually on SNL before he was cast. Season 29, non-speaking role in a pre-taped sketch. A parody of Fear Factor. He played a dad whose divorce depended on his kid eating maggots. Bizarre. Yeah. Shows he was already on their radar.
So SNL ends after one season. He heads back out, briefly has a deal with NBC, with Hubel and others that doesn't quite pan out. Happens all the time. But the next big move, that was the perfect fit, the role that let him truly merge the 2 sides of his life.
The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
Exactly. September 2006. He comes in to replace Rob Corddry, who was huge, big shoes to fill. But the format was tailor-made for Riggle, because now he could explicitly use the military background. He wasn't just another correspondent, he was the show's military analyst.
And they leaned into that hard right from the start. He'd always reference his service, joked about how his training meant he could, kill any other cast member. It created this funny running gag, this undercurrent of him being genuinely intimidating, even in the writer's room.
Yeah, and remember that Marines in Berkeley segment? That was classic Riggle Daily Show. He goes undercover, dressed as a hippie, to sort of spoof the peace protesters outside a Marine Marine recruiting station. But because it's him with his actual Marine background, it had this extra layer of authority. He could make fun of it from the inside almost. It was brilliant.
He also did major field pieces for them, like traveling to China for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Taped that whole series. Rob Riggle, Chasing the Dragon. That's a big production. He's planning, needs someone who can operate in, let's say, complex environments. Maybe those PA skills came in handy.
Could be. He left the show in December 2008. The joke was he was leaving to go fight crime. Classic Riggle deadpan. But his presence lingered. Remember that cameo in 2010 when Will Ferrell was on? Stewart and Ferrell were kind of playfully trash-talking Riggle, and then Riggle just walks onto the set. And the way Stewart and Ferrell immediately snapped to attention, got all polite and scared, it just cemented that whole running joke about him being genuinely feelsome.
Oh yeah, that was comedy gold. Using your real-life persona as the punchline. Masterful. Okay, before we get to the film stuff, there's an important shift in his live performance around this Daily Show time.
Right, good point. Up till then, pretty much all his live comedy was improv or sketch. Needed a team, partners. But starting around 2006, he begins developing a stand-up act. Solo act. And apparently John Oliver, who he shared an office with at The Daily Show, really encouraged him to do it.
Yeah, Oliver apparently told him, look, stand-up gives you independence. You own it. You don't need a troupe. So Riggle starts hitting the road, colleges, comedy clubs, often touring with Oliver, other Daily Show folks. It was a smart move. Gave him another way to perform, another income stream, right as he was transitioning out of the correspondent role.
And that independence, that stand-up polish, probably helped him make the leap into becoming this incredibly prolific supporting actor in movies over the next 10 years or so.
Oh, absolutely. After The Daily Show, he just carved out this niche, playing the intense guy, the loud guy, the overly confident, maybe slightly unhinged authority figure.
Yeah, his film roles really lean into that archetype. Step Brothers 2008, Randy. Will Ferrell's awful coworker, so aggressive, so inappropriate. It's hilarious because he commits so hard.
And then The Hangover in '09, Officer Franklin.
Yeah.
The taser scene, classic. He's got that mix of official power and just being kind of a jerk. Sets the whole tone. Follow that with Detective Evan Martin in The Other Guys, 2010. Paired with Damon Wayans Jr., always trying to one-up the main characters.
You see the pattern, right? Aggressive, high-status dude, played for comedy. You almost wonder if casting directors saw Lieutenant Colonel on his resume and thought, okay, this guy can pull off believable intensity. And the list goes on. The Internship, Let's Be Cops, even My Big Fat Greek Wedding, too. He pops up everywhere.
And he branched out into voice acting, too. Did the main villain, Aloysius O'Hare, in The Lorax in 2012, showed he could bring that energy even without being on screen. That kind of versatility kept him constantly working, not just movies, but big TV roles, too.
Yeah, on TV, he became super recognizable. Even if people didn't know his name, they knew the face. Gil Thorpe on Modern Family, Phil Dunphy's nemesis, that character was pure Riggle archetype. Hyper-masculine bragging real estate shark. 7 episodes of that. Hilarious.
Again, you see nods to his military past. He played the president of the Navy literally on that Adult Swim show, NTSS at the JUV. Pure parody. Leaning right into his rank. He was also Mitch, the Marine brother, on Gary Unmarried, and had a recurring role on Wilfred.
And it's cool that even while doing all this mainstream stuff, he still collaborated with his old UCB buddies, Hubel, Paul Scheer. They did sketches for HBO's Funny or Die presents, like Designated Driver, Death Hunt, kept those improv roots alive.
He had a couple of pilots that didn't quite launch, too. A CBS sitcom called Home Game with Mark Wahlberg producing. An NBC pilot, The Pro, with Rob Lowe. Happens. But even those misses didn't really slow him down, because by then he was moving into really high-profile gigs. Hosting. Brand stuff.
Yeah, these next moves really cemented him as more than just a supporting actor. He became a familiar face in huge broadcasts. September 2012, he takes over the comedy segment on Fox NFL Sunday from Frank Caliendo. That's a massive audience every week during football season. Different kind of comedy, too. More about predictions, quick jokes, interacting with the analysts, live TV pressure.
And then the ultimate commercial authority role. Colonel Sanders for KFC. Starting in 2016, he follows guys like Norm Macdonald, Daryl Hammond. He's literally wearing the white suit. It's perfect casting in a weird way. Plus, he hosted the ESPY Awards back in 2012. Big stage, live audience, full of stars.
And the most recent thing a lot of people probably know him from is Holey, Moley, the mini golf show from 2019 to 2022. He's the color commentator alongside Joe Tessitore. Just pure enthusiasm, absurdity, reacting to people getting knocked into water by giant windmills.
It's kind of the perfect endpoint for this discussion, isn't it? From earning a combat action ribbon under fire in Kosovo to providing hilarious commentary on extreme miniature golf, the sheer range of his professional life is just staggering.
It really is, and it points to this core ability, maybe, to handle wildly different kinds of pressure and performance, military discipline, comedy, chaos. He navigates both.
Right.
But we do need to address something else, his personal life, which took a very public, very dramatic turn recently, and it adds another much more serious layer to his story.
Yeah, it's part of the public record, so we need to include it for the full picture. He married Tiffany Riggle back in 1999. They have 2 kids together, but they filed for divorce in October 2020. And the details that came out in 2021, well, they're pretty shocking. Very different from the funny guy persona.
Yeah, the claim surfaced around June 2021. According to the reports, Riggle alleged that his estranged wife had hacked into his personal Apple account and also that she had stolen money from his home. These are serious accusations, obviously, pointing to a really difficult separation.
And it got even more intense. Later that same month, Riggle sought, and was granted, a temporary restraining order. The reason? He apparently discovered a hidden camera in his house, disguised as a smoke detector.
Right, that detail is just, wow. It takes the conflict to a whole different level. We're talking about alleged surveillance inside his own home and the scale of it. The reports mention the camera allegedly had something like 10,000 videos stored on it. And Riggle claims some of that footage backed up his earlier allegations about the hacking and the theft.
I mean, going through a divorce is tough enough.
Yeah.
But dealing with alleged hacking, theft, and finding a hidden spy camera, that's like something out of a movie, not the life of a comedian known for playing goofy authority figures.
It creates this incredible, almost unbelievable contrast, doesn't it? Here's a guy, a lieutenant colonel, trained in intelligence, threat assessment, operating in war zones, and he finds himself in this deeply personal, highly public drama involving alleged covert surveillance in his own private space.
The sources mentioned there was a follow-up hearing scheduled too. Specifically so a forensic expert could analyze all that video footage from the camera, which just underlines how serious and complex the whole situation became.
Yeah, it's a very somber, a very complicated note to touch on, but it does, in a strange way, tie everything together. It shows this person who has managed immense pressure, compartmentalized drastically different lives, and navigated incredibly high-stakes situations, whether on a battlefield, a comedy stage, or, unfortunately, in a courtroom.
So wrapping this all up, after going through all these sources, what's the main takeaway? For me, it's just the sheer, sustained dedication to 2 profoundly different, incredibly demanding paths. Lieutenant colonel, combat vet, decorated officer, and successful comedian, actor, host. It's extraordinary.
Absolutely. And, thinking back to that education split we talked about at the beginning, the BA in film, but also the Master of Public Administration, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Wonder what?
Well, how much did that MPA training, which is all about managing resources, strategic planning, logistics, dealing with crises, how much did that actually enable his success in comedy? We think of the military side and the comedy side as separate, maybe even conflicting. But maybe the skills he learned as a Marine officer, the discipline, the planning, the ability to perform under intense pressure, to command a room, to, compartmentalize, maybe those were the very skills that allowed him to thrive in the chaos of live comedy in Hollywood. Maybe that military background wasn't just something he juggled alongside comedy. Maybe it was fundamental to his ability to do comedy at the level he did. Something to think about, how that training translates across such a different world.